There are now more than 118,000 cases in 114 countries, and 4,291 people have lost their lives.
The world has reached another grim milestone in the history of the coronavirus pandemic. According to figures from Johns Hopkins University, COVID-19 deaths have passed the 3 million mark. The worst hit country is the United States, with more than 566,000 deaths.
School closures in 37 states affect more than 37 million kids, from kindergartners all the way through 12th graders. Some families are struggling to adjust as the coronavirus crisis grows.
At the same time as we have the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, we also have a killing of Breonna Taylor in Louisville.
Louisville police shot and killed 26-year-old Breonna Taylor in her apartment during what her family calls a botched drug raid.
Then we also have Ahmaud Arbery, who was a young man who was just jogging.
Ahmaud Arbery, he was a 25-year-old black man chased and killed by at least 2 white men as he was jogging in a Georgia neighborhood on February 23rd.
Going from face-to-face classroom instruction to 100% online instruction was very challenging. No one knew what was going on, the students or the teachers.
More depression, more anxiety due to the isolation that the pandemic has caused. Due to social distancing requirements for the past year, since last March, right? We've had to do things a lot differently. Our norm has changed, and because our norm has changed, of course, that means that our students' norms have changed as well.
I know our children are definitely in danger, and they are hurting the most. So if we plan for these kids to be future lawyers, future presidents, and they have a 1 and 2 year gap in their learning, how fast do they get to where the point they're trying to get to, you know? And if these are the people representing us, you know, and they had this gap in learning, and they're now your lawyer, and they're now your teacher and teaching your kids, what did they miss that they could have got from somewhere else to help them out?
Tar.
Yeah. Because like I mentioned to the teacher myself, your best child on Zoom, on the tablet, might not be your best child in person, in a class environment. That just means that it's one child that can't show you what they really have learned because the environment is totally different. There's some kids that are shell-shocked from the whole tablet and speaking on the tablet, and they will do a lot better if they were in person, in class, and see how all the other kids actually do and interact.
So imagine a student coming to college for the very first time as a freshman, not being able to live in a dorm with roommates, because social distancing requires, I think for our freshmen, they had to live alone. They had to sometimes move back home to environments that weren't always conducive for learning. Some of my students did indicate that they did have to move back home, and when they moved back home, they became another mouth to feed. So I'm having to do classwork from home, having parents or siblings knock on the door because they are at home, they feel like they're able to take them to the store or do whatever, when in actuality, they're in class.
Some students are sitting there, but they're not listening. So I need more attention. I need your attention. Okay? All right.
moving from in-person classes to online. A lot of people, a lot of students aren't very good with online learning. They need that tangible, they need that person in front of them giving those instructions, and just not being able to be close with one another.
I think it's rough on the school district since this is all new to everybody, and they only can do what they can, and what they can is just not enough. So by saying what they have and have not done, there'll be a reach to even say what they could do if they knew what they were doing.
You can just imagine how challenging it must be for a first year teacher to have to start off your career in this format without any blueprint, without any outline, without any framework, this being brand new.
So I believe for the most part, because all of our norms have shifted, that means that businesses, that means that these schools, everybody's had to find a new way to do things and still provide people with the services that they need. And it's just required some ingenuity, thinking outside the box. How can we still make sure that our students or just individuals in general still can benefit from our services, but just in this lifestyle that we have now with the pandemic?
A lot of people are working from home. I was given the option to teach from campus alone in my classroom or teach from home. I chose to go to the campus every day and teach from there because I feel more in tune and more in rhythm with teaching when I'm inside of my classroom. And for my personal life, that's just been a real big challenge when you have a routine set of how you've been managing your business for so many years, and then all of a suddenly, you're all of that's kind of uprooted. So I had to take my lessons, which I have in my file cabinet, 30 years worth of lessons, and try to convert them to a manner that would be accessible digitally. So that part has been challenging because I had to and I'm still in the process of recreating the wheel so that we're able to present the lessons in the Zoom or online format. With that said, there were some problems with connectivity, making sure that students were able to connect to the internet.
Once we found out that classes were going to be online, I believe the school did its best to provide hotspots and provide computers or provide access to the internet so that the students could stay on, on course for class. As far as our resources for the counseling center, we're able to still conduct our services that we normally do, but because we can't ensure that 6-foot social distancing guideline that the CDC has set, we are having to move our services, through telehealth. So we've been able to still have those free confidential services for our students, but just using the telehealth platform.
All of our faculty meetings are virtual now. So that was an adjustment, having to log on to the Zoom call for the faculty meeting, department meetings as well. I think that the colleagues and the administration has done a really great job of making the most out of the situation. We have virtual parent nights, virtual community meetings, which I thought were all very, very productive and empowering.
Because this is all new on everybody. It's hard to be on the school district, the teachers. It's hard to be on them because this is a first for us all. But if there are children that are not receiving or not getting the proper education, there needs to be something looked at as far as what we do with them going forward. You know, do we still push them ahead and take them out the class for 15, 20 minutes at a time for their own person? How fast can they bridge that gap? Maybe a lot of these kids need this a whole nother year, you know, of the same grade that they were just in, just to get everything together.
The beginning sound of this word is very good. That was great. Now what's the word?
Ted.
So we need to find a way to level out the kids' education. It won't be 2 or 3 kids that are real smart, and then it'd be 10 to 15 that just don't have a clue. And we just covering it up, or are they covering it up just to, cut a check or to count ahead for a child?
Engaging with your teacher,
answering questions,
being prepared.
I know it's hard to figure all this out, but all the kids that are left behind are going to be the kids that hurt us in the future, whether they're in jail, whether they're not in college, whether they passed the SAT. All of this matters right now. So if we don't catch it early and do something early, and when these kids get in middle school and junior high and high school, you know, it's almost too late. Now we have a problem, and they be like, "Oh, I wonder what happened." When this is what happened, is right here. Because what if there's a child that's already behind? Then the pandemic hits, and then they have to adjust this whole situation, and they don't get the one-on-one that they need to get ahead or to even catch up. Now they're even more behind than they were. Now we're going on 1-2 years behind. Is after a certain amount of years, catching up is almost impossible if it's the same thing going on. So if we're just gonna, slide the kids on to the next grade, it's gonna hurt eventually. It's gonna be another question asked, and everybody gonna act like they don't know the answer to it when the answer is when they were young.